Liberty Media, and their accomplices, have gone to a lot of trouble to try and con the world into thinking that the ill-tempered, whinging Dutchman that they supported and forcefully installed as champion is the most popular driver in F1. However, there is overwhelming evidence that he is actually the most unpopular driver ever to race in F1, supposedly as champion. As we have already shown in our previous video, Sly and Dregs, John Malone and Greg Maffei respectively, assembled a close-knit team, under their tight control and influence, to falsely represent that Max Verstappen was the most popular driver in F1. The Hatchet team, made up of their wholly owned subsidiary, F1, the Dutch-born research company, Nielsen, and the F1 dependent media and technology company, Motorsport Network, produced a fake 2021 global survey that falsely claimed that Max was the most popular driver, followed by Lando Norris, and Lewis Hamilton, dropped from first to third. S&D also relied on their media toadies like Martin Gopher Brundle, of Sky F1, David Coulthard, of Channel 4, and the BBC's Andrew Benson, to launder Max's image. However, all this effort has been in vain, because we can reveal that 2 races into his illegal reign, Max is officially the most unpopular champion ever in the history of F1. In Bahrain, the crowd cheered every time Charles immediately regained the lead after selling Max the DRS dummy, and the cheer was loudest when Max overcooked the corner, in his third futile attempt to overtake Charles. The Bahrain crowd roared as Sainz overtook Max to go second, and, critically, when Max retired his broken car. Significantly, the greatest cheer from the crowd was when the hugely popular Lewis Hamilton gained third place as Red Bull's Perez spun out.
Sergio Perez, nothing he can do about it whatsoever, but you can hear the roars of the crowd here and the delights from the fans in Bahrain as Lewis Hamilton, very popular man in these parts, moves himself up into the podium position.
We also saw how popular Charles and Lewis were during the post-race tarmac interview and the podium celebrations. In Saudi Arabia, we all heard Max whinging throughout the race, as Mr. Let Them Race tried repeatedly and unsuccessfully to gain an unfair advantage by conning or inducing the stewards into penalizing his rival. Max whinged when Charles was in the lead for most of the race, and he also whinged when Charles was chasing him down with 2 laps to go. This nasty trait of poor sportsmanship was reflected in most media coverage, apart from those of Messrs. Brundle, Benson and Coulthard. Charles, who was voted driver of the day for the second race in succession, received the greatest cheers from the Saudi crowd during the post-race interview and on the podium. Max's unpopularity may account for why the TV coverage of the Saudi post-race celebrations did not include a wide-angle sweep of the crowd celebrating in the grandstand, as is customary, and as they did in Bahrain. The unpopularity of Max and his Red Bull team is becoming harder for Sly and Dreg's disinformation army to hide. The reality at the racetrack flies in the face of S&D's outrageous attempt to represent that Max is the most popular driver in F1, followed by the relatively unknown Lando Norris, whose boss just happened to have been the previous boss of the company that commissioned the survey, and, astonishingly, all the toxicity of last season was not expressly down to Max. However, 2 races into Max's illegal reign, we can authoritatively reveal that an independent, continuous and long-running fan survey expectedly shows that Ferrari's Charles Leclerc has gained the most supporters since the start of the season, followed by Lewis Hamilton, and then Carlos Sainz. This report resonates with the evidence of the crowd cheering that we have witnessed so far this season, the Driver of the Day awards that have gone to Charles in both races and the resurgence of Ferrari. There can be no disputing the fact that Max coming 7th, just above the rookie Mick Schumacher, is a damning rebuke of his illegitimate championship. The rebuke is made worse by the huge effort that S&D are making to launder his bad reputation. For example, it was astonishing to hear David Coulthard open the Saudi post-race interview by crediting Max for racing respectfully, in the face of his most distasteful whinging from lights to flag, when he should have been shown a black and white flag for his repeated attempts to con the stewards. It was no coincidence that, on his Twitter page, Gopher, who inexplicably had been absent from Saudi, also attempted to credit Max for racing respectfully. Max has shown that he cracks under pressure and relies on steward bias to win. The evidence suggests that S&D are still intent on propping Max up, but this time around, the viewers are wiser, and Charles and Ferrari are a much different challenge.